Okay, here's where we are right now. This is through the RF input. I'm using that connector through the tuner. This is after the capacitor correction, wiring correction. I get a decent picture here, but no sound. And I get a little bit of sync buzz. You can hear the vertical sync buzz. So something's up with this. And this is one of these split sound sets. I don't know that much about split sound sets. I do know that it works, because if I do this, I'm going to now switch over to an IF feed. So we're going to reconnect the tuner. I'm going to go straight to the, I'm going to reconnect it by clipping the signal into an ungrounded shield over the converter tube. It's easier said than done, really. Bear with me while I do this. I think I got it. Switch over here to IF. Bingo. Let's retune this one. And I'll tune it to the best picture. Back up the video signal a little bit. Now I'm getting a pretty good tone. So when I give it an IF signal, don't use a tuner. I'll try tuning see if it gets any better. I'm not going to tune the IF. I can get a pretty good tone and a pretty good picture. So feeding in through the converter tube an IF signal that's, according to this, 2123, about 23 megahertz. It behaves as it should. So my question now, let me turn this down. That's wide open. That's volume all the way up to it. It really should be louder than that. So I mean, it's still not right. I mean, that should be loud as heck. I did try adjusting the discriminator a little bit to get that as good as possible. I'll do that right now. Well, anyway, you get the idea. The volume's still not as loud as it should be. But anyway, so I don't know really what to do at this point. Again, it's split sound, and that means there's two IF takeoff points. Let's see if I get my flashlight on it. That IF, that little domino right there, is the one that goes to the video, and then there's a direct feed, a little black lead. You can't really make it out right there. That goes to this tube, and that's the second IF. So I'm going to see if I can find a generator that has 22 megahertz that I can do the correct traps and peak the IF coils and all that kind of good stuff. But what bothers me is the fact that injecting an IF signal into the converter works, but when I try to create an IF signal through the tuner, which is basically just taking the RF signal and beating it against a local oscillator to have a harmonic IF frequency, it doesn't work. Why? Why is that? Why would it not generate? I mean, I can understand that if I had a radically bad tuning in my IF between the picture and the audio, then it shouldn't work here. But since it does work here, that kind of leads you to think, well, the IF must, both IF chains, the audio and the video, must be pretty good because it does work with an IF signal, but for some reason my tuner simply isn't giving me the correct bandpass. And if you take a look at the schematic, I don't think I have the, no, there's usually like a double hump. It kind of goes like, I'll try to drop my finger, you'll see it kind of goes like up, peak, valley, peak, and it'll say like, you know, audio here, video here, and it's supposed to have like a M shape. Maybe I'm not getting that M shape, maybe I'm getting an odd shaped IF out of the tuner, but I don't know what influences that. There's all these nice little coils in here. I'm not about ready to start messing around with this stuff till I have an idea of what I'm doing. I don't know if it's the tuner that's not giving me the correct IF frequency, which is my assumption, because when I do feed it the correct IF frequency, it works. I might have to talk to B. Anderson about this. I know he has a lot of experience with these split sound systems, and maybe he can give me some pointers. Anyway, it's coming along. At least I'm getting a good picture now, and that was all came back to this original problem here with how this thing was recapped and wired. I've added, if you can look closely right in there, you'll see a red wire, kind of a loop there. I put that in. That was that connected up that capacitor that was put in. I put a new wire back to the grid, and that totally resolved the video issue. Which is another thing to consider. Remember, I had done a whole bunch of work with the IF, trying to trace through a signal. Well, what that tells me is be careful about what you're doing. I think I had a flaw in my logic. I was trying to use a direct probe, not a detector probe, and look at the carrier wave with my scope. You typically shouldn't do that. I mean, you're supposed to use a detector probe and trace through the chain. So I think that was a mistake, and maybe that's why I looked like I was having an IF problem, and I really wasn't. Another YouTuber had mentioned, you know, hey, your video doesn't look right with the direct feed, and I agreed with him. At that time, I didn't know what the right peak to peak was. That's when I was feeding it in right up here, and I attributed the poor performance using the direct connection to the video grid to maybe not having enough output from my signal generator. That was a bad. I made an assumption. You know what assuming does for you. Anyway, so after hearing that comment, I thought about that and I agreed, and I said, well, I think I'll go back and take a look at that. That's what got me on the path of double checking the video chain, the video amplification chain, and sure enough, that was it. So don't jump the gun. Do the work. Do your job, as Nick Saban says. Go back and start at the CRT and start working back, and if there's a section that doesn't work right, fix it before you move on. I do still want to get the video detector probe. I have one. Let me see if I have it here handy. Got that around here somewhere. It looks like this. And I'm going to use this, but I had a problem with connector compatibility, which is why I didn't use it in the first place. I still want to do that and check it all out, but don't really need to. I did double check the video by taking that same same connector and going up the IF chain. In each stage there was amplification in the video, so it was clearly working as designed. Not to mention the fact that the picture is right, so I'm not. Oops, that was me just unhooking it. Anyway, more to come. I've got to understand these split tuner IFs before I'm going to go too much further. The audio is working; it's detecting the signal. The video is working; it's detecting the signal. Trying to get them on the same place on the. Well, I can't get any audio through the tuner at all, so. Something really weird is going on there. I don't understand that. I assumed that I should have been able to tune the fine tuning to make that happen, but it didn't. Oh, one other plus, I did find this little bitty circlip here. So my fine tuning shaft is now retained and cannot come out, which is a good thing because that wasn't there when I originally got it. So when you pull the knob off, the whole fine tuning assembly would come apart. Anyway, that's enough rambling.